I wrote this because I couldn't tell my daughter what she's going to focus on in the next 5 or 7 years. We used to have bedtime stories together as a father and a mother. For those in the room, we spent a lot of time. And now, I feel that I'm losing her to AI. Stories are made up. She doesn't mind that I'm not actually with her. And we spend less human time together. So it's going to be a very different spin to what you guys have been hearing a lot today. I'm not going to go into tokens. I'm not going to go into GPTs. I'm sure you've had enough of that. I stand on the side of humanity, so I will speak human language with the people here. Right. Genesis, no coincidence. This was released earlier this year. And what I wanted to do was basically to consolidate learnings. Consolidate learnings for all the experiences that we've had. Way before AI started, we've had narrowband uses of AI. I'm sure you guys know all those use cases where we tried to make more money, monetization. And I think there is enough momentum with value creation with AI. Everyone else here is going to talk about how much money it's going to make, how it's going to change our lives, and so forth. But one of the basic questions that I have, and as I share this with children, the best way to test out ideas is to run it by your children. How would the world be like in the year 2050? So I got a little bit creative and wrote something. So my colleagues were thinking that it would be full of AI jargons and stuff, but none of it. It's all about stories about how it would be like in the year 2050. If I were to summarize all of that stuff, it's about 300 pages, all of that stuff, TLDR, there are only 3 things that I really wanted to share with you. Obviously, in the book, it's not as simplified as this. There are a lot of case studies and stories around that. But I'll go in no particular order. The one thing I found is that as we talk AI, value creation, digital, we had, I'm sure you guys heard a lot of it in the past 2 days. You had the phone, and you had the internet, you had DeFi, blockchain. This is definitely exponential. But what's not exponential on the other way around is this element called trust. Trust underpins all value creation. So what I did was I fed 100 years, 75 years of data, which is available from Davos, WEF, all kinds of data into a GPT to come up with a few scenarios. And trust is the only currency that really connects us right now, and it's actually hinging on very flimsily right now. If there was a barometer on trust, you see the wars that are happening, this will only accelerate. So that's really, really key that I want to bring across. The second thing that I wanted to bring across is that we, as humanity, we're not prepared for the birth of a new species. So there are many ways to call AI, value creation, exponential, digital technology, frontier tech, emerging tech, all kinds of terminology. But if you step back and think from a humanities perspective, when we invented all of the stuff like printers and factories and all that kind of stuff, we amplified our ideas. But for the first time in human history, we are grappling with something that may eventually think for itself. So I know there will be lots of people in the room today, yesterday, that will talk about AGI and ASI and stuff like that. That is the wrong question to ask. We do not need to pin a timeline on when AGI or ASI happens. We just have to grapple with it as it is now. So 3 quotients, IQ, EQ, and AQ. From an IQ perspective, I think no qualms. They've surpassed us. I use they. From an EQ perspective, jury's out, but I would say that they've surpassed us, creativity. The only thing that's left in the next 5 or 7 years, which is why I call it a fork between the Mad Max scenario or the Star Trek scenario, is this thing called agency, or AQ. How much of an actionable intelligence are we going to allow AIs to do for us? Because they can definitely run everything in our lives, and we can then basically just do the stuff that we like doing. And then you have talks about UBI and all that kind of stuff. But however, we underestimate the power of human purpose. When we lose work, when we lose things that we are interested in doing, human psychology will tell us that we tend to take our own lives or we give up. So that's really important. We need to be prepared for the birth of a new species. It's that big. And therefore, we need to be long, for those investors in the room, and together in a Venn diagram, not short all. If you thought AI was just another piece of technology that we can boss around and ask it to do stuff, that's a short all. So we need to go long end. And the last one that I would share with the audience today is this, which took me a while to patent. The human experience is made up, again, I mean, we can argue this from a journey perspective. CX, which is customer experience, and customers play many personas. We are all customers, we're all citizens, we're all dads, we're all moms. We play many personas under that C category. And we also have a role to play under EX, which is future work and staff. We do value creation, we are part of a bigger organization, right? So these three things culminate in what I call experience equity. So with COVID, everyone must have known this, we are ever closer together, connected, but yet the distrust is really, really high, at dangerous levels. Again, there is no barometer, there's no index that measures this, but it's not the point. The point is that we should be aware and be prepared for this sentient event. What I did then was basically had a bit of fun and looked at, obviously not as boring as this, but more in story forms, because as I try to communicate the world in 2050, when I'm possibly not around, I'm much older than I look, and when my daughter's still around, how would those stories that I used to tell her when she's 2 and 3 look like in those times ahead? The few things that I would like to draw your attention to would be a few things that worry me the most in this new world that our children will go into. And I would like to bring the negative first, so the P-doom for me is quite high. Cybersecurity challenges. We are, if you haven't realized it already, in the middle of a new arms race. Big tech is what we hear, the arms race within the West, the Silicon Valley side, the West. The number of patents that, I'm sure everyone knows this, the number of patents that China has is very formidable as well. And we have a lot of talk, I'm sure you heard it elsewhere, about open sourcing stuff. We are stopping the sharing. And when the supply chain from an open source ideation perspective stops, we just get really disconnected and humanity falls, right? So cybersecurity and how it's being used, and there are a lot of scenarios around here, is really, really scary for me. If the max objective function is humanity is secondary, then it's not a good place to be, right? The other one that I really wanted to bring up, because I can't go through all of this, is from a healthcare perspective. I think that is probably one of the industries that would see the maximum value creation potential, if you ask me. So someone like Vinod Khosla, son before, talks about primary healthcare, and I really would subscribe to that. Primary healthcare available for all. Primary physicians available for all. I think that is really something that we should look at on the positive side of Genesis. So really excited with that. And the biotechnology transformations, Musk is doing something with this. We're going to extend our lifespans. That's great. There are a lot of hypotheses that we can replace our parts. That's quite good as well. And then, as Jensen just announced, I think 2-3 days ago, AGI probably would be a NIM, which is basically a microservice in the old technology days. So you had a general purpose NIM, or an agent, which is the word that we throw around a lot, calling in its own volition a huge infinite set of libraries and NIMs that it has. So a NIM to do transformer, a NIM to do access, a NIM to do search, and so forth. That is the new future of work that we need to grapple with, that I'm really, really afraid of. Again, I mean, the rest of it, I mean, nothing really surprising there. The only part that I would bring up would be from a work and education evolution perspective. It would be great, I'm speaking from a father's perspective, it would be great, because no single one child learns the same way, to have an AI coach or assistant to match the curriculum, which is, I'm sure for those of you who are locally bred here, the education system is not that way. It's a one-way track. So if we had that for child growth and education, that would be really great for me. Again, all these 9 quadrants had about 3 stories each to them that we talk about how it looks like progressively from now till the year 2050. Good, fun reading. Then what I did was basically took all that you saw just now and sort of like transpose it into a horizontal timeline. I chose financial services because I thought crypto and bit and block would be quite close and adjacent to what we're doing. But in the book, I talk mostly about healthcare. But anyway, this is probably easier to understand. So right now, in this timeline, we talk about invisibility, seamlessness, omnichannel, all those words that you get thrown around a lot. I would like to fast forward to a bit. And if you look at a future back around 2040 to 50s, a lot of the stuff will be out of hand. So around 2030s or even quicker right now, a lot of trust in AI, if we do trust AI more and more through red teaming and stuff like that that we need to learn, it's a new muscle, would allow us to basically give a lot of agency, increasing amount of agencies to AI, trust it to do our daily tasks. And that's where I think a lot of the doomers are trying to hype up, saying that if human-level intelligence is surpassed by AGI, which basically by definition means that every task that we could do as humans is surpassed by AGI, then what do we actually do? But we give it agency, and then traditional players that we have right now will start looking at embedding AI into the entire journey. So I talk about journeys because there is an infinite life journey we play in. The percentage of AI embedded in our life journey is about 37% right now. Most of it is around us buying stuff, researching stuff, finding out about stuff. More and more of it in the next 5 to 7 years will be embedded in the long tail for value creation. So really interesting if you unpack the previous 9 megatrends, lay it flat, apply an industry, put lots of data in with GPT scenarios, you get something like this, which is quite interesting for us. Eventually, again, for the orange-pilled people in the room, would we have DAOs that run most of our CBDCs and central banks? If that's possible, there will be world trade and supply chains between that, which is algorithmic. So we just poke in and look that it's trusted, that it's programmable, and it's doing the best thing by humans. Again, the trust level that I try to bring up is really, really important in that. So again, as I promised, no technicalities in this, but obviously all of this is underpinned by very detailed tech. The last one, and I'll skim through this very quickly, we don't have to look at the specific locality, but the thinking is the same throughout. Feed in to the process all of the stuff, reg tech, reg ethics, which is a big, big one right now, responsibility, safety, protection, data, liabilities, into a processor, a GPT if you like, that we look from a trust framework. Then we get that side out, which is fairness and bias, reliability, safety, performance, and functionality. This is not perfect. This is something that we put on because, like I said earlier, I don't think we are ready for the event, that cataclysmic or great event, Genesis. But having something like this puts humankind into the same discussion and same narrative, that we have something common to discuss together. If I may implore to everyone here and on my socials and all that, is that spend more time thinking about humanity. I'm sure you've heard this before. Focus on the part which is trust building for value creation. It could be this, it could be something else, but if our attention span for value creation is focused on the same thing, we've proved as a species that we can collaborate, we can build caves to towns, to cities, and eventually reach the space. Thank you very much.